And for me, the most powerful realization when I started working the steps was that it was a spiritual program. I just came there to get rid of a drug habit.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm like, they're asking me to connect to this higher power and to give up my will over to it. And I don't even know what it is. But for some reason, when my sponsor asked me that, I was 100% willing. And it was like this beautiful, freeing concept for me. And then now that I reflect back on like my whole life, I always felt like there was something missing. I always was questioning life. I was always wondering, like, why are we here? Why do people do what they do? I didn't want to follow the status quo, and I didn't know why. And I wanted some deeper meaning to life. And when I connected to the 12-step program and the concept of a spiritual way of living, it was like I woke up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I went through that too. It was a huge awakening, actually, yeah.
Right?
A spiritual awakening. Do you believe, in God, or do you have a certain higher power?
In the beginning, when I first started doing this, I just felt like, okay, there has to be a greater reality, right? So yeah. I was okay with the concept of God. I didn't grow up religious. My grandmother is very religious, but no one else in my family is. I had some prejudice against religion, like a lot of people that come into the steps, right? But today, that concept has evolved. Right? The relationship with God has evolved. Just as I started working the steps, my grandmother would bring used books to me, and most of them were cookbooks. And she would buy them at this bookstore, and I'm like, Grandma, I don't need cookbooks. Like, I can just open my phone and find any recipe I need. But one day she brought me 5 books, 4 of them were cookbooks, and one of them was a book called The Perennial Psychology of the Bhagavad Gita. As I started to read it, the person who wrote it is a Swami from India who grew up in the Himalayas meditating and just completely devoted his life to God. It was a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And as I was reading it, I was deeply inspired by all of these philosophical ideas about life and its meaning. And the thing that really stood out to me about it was that he was talking about meditation in it quite a bit. And he was saying that meditation was one of the main tools by which a person who is seeking God can actually have an experience of God, right? Can further awaken to this spiritual reality. And so that it resonated with me because I realized that I didn't just have to believe something, but that I could actually test this faith through these practices.